Okay, I have pressed the record button on this. And so I'm just letting everyone know that the meeting is being recorded. If you don't want to be recorded, you can take your picture down and not be seen, and if you don't want to comment and be on the recording, then don't comment, or you can leave if you don't want to be recorded. But we do have to give that announcement when we're recording it, because what we will do is it will be turned into a YouTube recording and then it will go on the Clark County channel so that you can share it with other neighbors. And thank you for reminding me to do that, Kirk. So I'm gonna share my screen if it works properly, and we'll hope that this goes off without a hitch. Okay, here we go. As I said a little bit earlier, we've had a couple of presentations from community development, but they've kind of been on the premise of what's already on the webpage and just telling you what they're already sending you. And we haven't had anything from the neighborhood perspective of, okay, I've got this, what do I do with this? So we're going to kind of go over the process. If April was here, I'm going to go ahead and thank her publicly for allowing staff to answer some of my questions, because I did have a couple of things come up while I was compiling the information, and they were very helpful in answering questions. So as far as the framework, we're going to review what the review process is. They used to call it, when they did it back when I started back in 2004, they would do a program that was called a ride along, that you would ride along with the plan from the idea through all of the processing sections that it went to. So we're going to do a ride along tonight of somebody from an idea to when it starts moving dirt and then you have buildings up. We're going to have a look at what the differences in the notices are and the opportunities that you have when it's appropriate and you're able to do public comment, and how to get more information when you are looking for more information, where to go. So this is a diagram that is just showing that the projects follow basically the same track, but there are some extra steps or less steps for some of the processes. There are basically 4 types. There's a type 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to go over what those are. But for this diagram's purpose, the types 2 and 3 that go through community development will have a pre-application conference. Then it goes to the next step, and they do a development review and approval. And for types 1 and 2, the planning staff reviews and makes the recommendation and makes a decision. For a type 3, which is a little bit more complex, the hearing examiner does the review and decision, and there's actually a formal hearing for that. After that's done, it's not done. The public portion is closed, but the next step is it goes into the engineering review and the final site development, and then comes the building construction. And people get confused about this a lot of times, because there can be years that pass in between the decision that it's okay to do a site development and when they start moving dirt and start putting in sidewalks and such. Clicking. Okay, here we go. Thank you to Cheryl. I kind of amended a graph that she had done. And these are our different types. There's a 1, there's a 2, there's a 2A, and there's a 3. You can see on this, whether there's a pre-app or not. Type 1, there's not a pre-application conference, and we'll go over what that is in a moment. There's no public notice on a type 1. It goes through a process of only 21 days. There's no comment period. County staff approves it. And that is for what they call simple projects, such as signs, decks, accessory dwelling units, things that, according to the code, don't have a minimal impact on the neighbors. A type 2 is they will send out a mailed notice to property owners. If they define you as urban, it'd be a 300-foot radius. If it's rural, it's a 500-foot radius. and you would get a notice in the mail. The neighborhood leader would also get an email. Anybody who has requested to be part of a party of record on it would also get a notice, and it's 78 days from the start to the finish on that. But the county staff, again, is the folks that make the decision on that. And that's for a basic commercial site plan or residential site plan, a small subdivision, a short plat, that type of thing. There's a type 2A, and these are the ones we get some questions on because they have what's called a neighborhood meeting. It's not a neighborhood association meeting. These are like for conditional use permits, which means they're doing something within that zone that they have to meet certain conditions to be able to do it. And so they're going to go out to the neighbors and find out if there's a ruckus about it. And a good example of this was the concrete plant, which was a conditional use permit. And they got 150 people showing up at the neighborhood meeting and found out that there was a lot of people interested in that. It's also for master plans like Camp Bonneville and Heritage Farm to get those approved. That's a type 2A. The process is basically the same as the type 2, but the residents can request that there be a hearing. If there's enough interest, it goes to a hearing. It extends the time frame, it extends the comments, and then it changes it from a county staff decision to a hearing examiner decision, and there is a formal hearing and a formal hearing process. The type 3 is bigger subdivision zone changes. And those are 92 days, and those are automatically going to go through the hearing examiner and have the notices sent to you. I put type 4s on here, but we're not going to go over those because those are comprehensive plan zone changes and overlays, and you will get notices for those, but those go through community planning, and they go through the planning commission review, and then they go through the county council is the ones that make the decisions on those because there's more of a zone change. So that would be a whole nother presentation. So I don't want to deep dive into that because I want to focus on what we're doing. But I did want to make you aware that if you get a notice with type 4, that's what that process is. So I went ahead and did screenshots of what a type 2 notice will look like. And the first one is one that does not have a CPA, which I'm going to explain what that is in a second. And the second one is one that does include a CPA. And so the title is pretty much the same, and you do see that it says type 2 up here. It says notice of type 2, so that you know that it is a lower impact project. And these look almost exactly the same. On the first page, it's going to give you the information of who's applying for it, where it's at, and they're lengthier than this, but I wanted to see if you're getting this in the mail or you're getting this in the email. A lot of people get these in the mail, and it doesn't really say, hey, they're going to build something next to you. And if you get one of these, they're going to build something next to you, or they're going to change something next to you. So you do want to read them. And these that are the type 3 are the ones that will go through a hearing process. The CPA DNS notice, there's a certain criteria that projects will have to hit, and then they will ask for there to be a review of whether there is an environmental impact to the project. When these come to you, they're a checklist, and it's usually somewhere between 12 and 17 pages. And it's a basic checklist that they fill out for all of them. And it'll have things on it like, is there an impact to riparian habitat? Is there an impact to, do you see deer, osprey, hawks, those type of things? And we've had neighborhoods go through these and say, wait a minute, it says that there are no hawks. It says there's no herons. We see herons all the time. There's nesting of eagles. There's nesting of I can't remember what those other birds are called. And so in those cases, if you're getting something that has the CPA DNS notice and you're seeing that you don't agree with what the checklist has been filled out for, then you need to make a public comment within 14 days. And on commenting on anything that is a CPA, that needs to be focused on the environmental issues, air and water quality, habitat, impact to a stream flow, clean water, those types of things. It can't really be focused on that you're not going to like the traffic, because that's not as much of an environmental impact. So with the type 3s, you're going to get, well, you aren't going to get, you're going to get, there is going to be a pre-application conference agenda sent out. This email notice only goes out to people who've asked to be on this list. But if you're on this list, they're not going to filter out the notices that are just for your neighborhood. You're just going to get every single pre-application agenda that winds up happening. Oh, there's Julie. The agenda is an attachment on the email, and you have to open it up and it'll show you what the conference agenda is. It describes what the project is. It gives you the parcel number, the address, and then the person that you always want to contact on these, if you have a question, is the planner. They're going to list everything out on here of all of the people that are involved in reviewing this, but you want to address your comments to the planner. There's one other thing I want to see on this. Oh, all of the pre-apps are included on a weekly notice that goes out from community development, and you can sign up for that list as well. And that list, we'll see if the link works. Cross my fingers. Oh, nope, this isn't the list. This is a list of where the developments are. And this is a web page where this is going to show you all of the developments that are under review that are should match up to the notice that has all of the development projects. This map, when you're clicking on it, they've made it so that it's not a list of projects anymore, it's the map. So you can take and zoom into this of where you live.
Marilee, that your screen didn't change.
Oh, it didn't.
No. We're still on the pre-app conference notice.
Okay, yeah. Let me do this, new share.
Yep.
And thank you for letting me know. Show all windows. Where are you? Here we go. Can you see it now?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So this is their development page that's supposed to be everything that's going on. So you've got, they have a map that's here in the center of the page. And instead of doing a list of everything that's going, you can zoom into where you're interested in. Looks like there's a lot going on just up here by Battleground. And when you hover over it, it's gonna, and click on it, it's gonna tell you what type it is and what the project is. And this confused me, so I wanted to show you what happens. I was like, well, I don't see any information on this. There's a little bar over here to the left, and when you scroll down using the bar, it's gonna tell you the status, and then you can see the site plan, and view is blue, and that'll show you the site plan. It'll show you the public notice, and the staff report is not completed yet, and the decision is not issued yet. So one of the things that is really handy to do, a lot of the neighborhood leaders will get questions on what are they doing there. And when you click on the site plan, I don't know if this is going to be a good example or not, but is it changing for your screen? I hope.
Yeah.
It's not?
It is.
Okay.
It's not there yet. It's still thinking.
Yeah, it's doing its little, and then you're going to have a picture of what it is that they're going to do, of what they've submitted. And it takes a while to load because I've got Frontier here, so it's a little bit slower than Xfinity. But these have grading plans, and if you zoom in, you can see all of the descriptions of the preliminary plans of what they want to do. And this has been really helpful to a lot of people that have questions. If it's going to be a storage unit or whatever, or even if it's going to be, well, let's go ahead and go back and see if I can find one that's actually something that's being constructing. All these are Lewisville line expansion. East Fork Alliance is going to be looking at that, I bet. Let's see what this one is. Okay, to divide 20 acres into 2 lots, that's not going to really show us a picture of what I'm trying to show you. So let me get closer, further down here into the area where it's a little more urban. That's a short plat. Here we go. Here's a subdivision. 2.52 acres into 17 single family residential lots for cottage housing. So they haven't issued the public notice or the staff report yet, but you can view what it is that they've submitted. Hopefully this one will load a little bit faster than the last one. And these are really helpful when you're just have a notice that's up on a piece of property to know what's coming and whether you're going to want to comment on it. And there's been a lot of discussion amongst the neighborhoods about the cottage plans and the impacts that they're having, because most of them do not have garages. And when you're going through this, like the first one's a main plan, your second page is going to be like your grading of how they're going to grade the property. And then it starts looking into, it's going to show you where they're going to do landscaping and where the borders of the properties are going to be. This is a sewer structure table. Probably lots more than you ever wanted to know. So I'm going to go back to the slides. And I'm also going to check the chat because I can see some questions. Here we go. Okay, and this is the project report that you can sign up for, which everybody finds helpful. A couple of years ago, they used to just send this out, and it was just a big conglomeration of everything that was going on. And I asked Susan Ellinger if she could sort it by neighborhood so that when you get this, all the stuff that's in your neighborhood is going to all be together. But then we had a question from North Salmon Creek, and they wanted to be able to sort the list, and it was a PDF. And so they responded to that request, and now it's also available in Excel. So if you sign up for this through this person, this Diana Shotinus, all you have to do is send her an email, and then she'll put you on the list so that you'll get this every week. Oops. So I am going to put the PDF one up on the screen, and I'm not certain. This one's a link to a document, so it might come up. Did this come up? Can you see a document that says land use projects? Okay. So this explains the difference between, whether it's a pre-app conference, type 1 decision, type 2, type 3. And as you go down here, it has a little bit of a glossary of what the types of projects are. And then it's starting out, Curtain Creek is the first because it's alphabetical.
I don't think everybody, is everybody seeing what she's talking about? I can't see it
Nope.
on my end.
No,
Mine didn't come
No.
up.
We can
Oh,
only
it's
see
not
the
showing?
weekly neighborhood project report.
Okay, hang on. Let me share that screen.
Sorry, this one said land use projects under it too. And
There you go.
There
That's
we
it.
go.
There you go.
Okay,
Okay.
there we got it.
So I'll go back to the top. The first page on this, when you open up this email, is going to show you, descriptions of what the types of projects are, what the case types are, and then what the statuses are, and an explanation of what that status means, whether it's been decisions been made, it's just still in review. And then it has it in alphabetical order by neighborhood. So Curtain Creek is up here first. And with this, every week, you can see all of what is on Curtain Creek. And you can pay attention to the ones that are on hold and keep watching them and see what's going on. And then East Fork Alliance is next up, and it goes all that way to the very end of this document. Close that out. Uh-oh. That's what I get for trying to be clever. What they did with the Excel format, I think is really cool. Cheryl is thrilled with it. She really likes it. I can get it to come up.
That's because it's 2 pages versus 67 pages.
And let me make sure that I'm sharing it. And you can, since it's an Excel sheet, you can sort it by however you want to. It's going to automatically come up sorted by the neighborhoods. And then it tells you the name of the project, the permit number, the status, where it's at, what type of conference or decision it's at. It gives you a description. I'm having a hard time. Doesn't want to move over. Here we go. It's going to give you a description of what they're wanting to do. And it's a lot of different things. One of these is a comprehensive plan amendment. Another one is 5.7 acres is going to be developed into 5 new homes. It then also will tell you if when the comment period ends, so you have how long you have before you can put something in. So if you wanted to, you could sort it by your group and then the date so that you'd know when you needed to get information in. If you were looking for just a specific address, you could sort it by address so that you could find the address of what somebody was asking you about. And then it gives you the nice little thing here at the end of who the staff contact is and what their phone number is. So you don't have to dig through a lot of other paperwork to find out who you need to call to get more information. And so I will close that up and go back to the other screen. And I'm checking the chat. Oh, okay. And
Marilee, I don't know if this is a control. Can anybody see the chat? I can't see the chat at all, only Marilee.
it's only if somebody is sending it to everybody. And I got a couple that were sent direct to me, it looks like.
Okay. Yeah, I don't, when I go in here, I can only send messages to you. I can't send messages to anyone in the group.
Right.
Okay.
It may not be a big deal. Don't worry about it.
It should be fixed now.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for telling me, because I didn't know that it was limited.
Oh, that's
So-
perfect.
All you have is everyone and Marilee. That's your only 2 choices.
Do you want it to be more better? More better. Do you want it to have more options than that? Okay, so now we're going to go back to the start of our little drive along and ride along of the very start of a project is that there's an idea. So the developer or the applicant, they apply to do a pre-application conference. And what the purpose of that is they come in and they're talking to the staff about, is this within the parameters of what the code's going to allow? Do I need to change anything on this to make it be so that you'll approve it? If you're on that notification process where you've gotten the notice there's going to be a pre-app, you can send in public comment to the planner, and that will be considered while they're writing up their review of what they talked about. There is no public comment during a pre-application conference, and the reason why is because the applicant / developer pays for this conference so that they can work out the things that they need to work out to be in compliance with the code. And so it's focused, since they paid for the time, they paid for the conference, and it's focused on their questions. But it is really important to remember and know that if you have submitted the comments, when they are writing up their review of the conference, they are going to address any concerns that you have submitted for this pre-application conference. Email, include the case number and the name of the project. At the top of the letter or in the subject line of the email. It helps them get it right into the correct file. And if you've sent it to the wrong planner, if there was some kind of a glitch and you had the wrong name, they can make sure that it gets to the right planner. Things to comment on are road entry points, site distance issues, questions on traffic control. Are you going to put in a roundabout? There needs to be a right kick out turn lane. We're concerned about school bus stop locations. And also any environmental impact concerns, or anything that or that you feel like goes against what the county code is. And if you have that county code, I would reference it in your comments. The things not to include are, I just don't like the way that this looks. There's too many new houses being built in Clark County. The realtor told me this was always going to be a park, and why is something being built here? It's going to block my view, or there's going to be too much traffic. It's not specific enough for them to address, and it doesn't have anything to do with code. And you are expressing a valid concern. You don't like what's happening, but it's not something that they can address during the review process. So I did a sample. So like in this particular case, it's addressed to the planner. The case number is up here with the name of the project, and then it says pre-app comments for the date of when the pre-app is. And then I'm writing with comments regarding this. This is the pre-conference date. I have concerns about a blind corner. My name is this. I can be reached at email or telephone if you need to have questions about my comments. And then in this particular case, I clipped something off of our mapping system and put a little star on it so that the planner would know exactly what I was talking about. And we're going to show you how to do that too, if you want to include that stuff in your comments. So then the pre-application conference is done. You submitted your comments. The applicant has talked to the planner, and then the planner issues a final report. So, I mean, we're still at the very, very start of this process. The planner issues the report and says, okay, I looked at everything. I like this about it. This matches everything that is with county code, but we want you to address this intersection. We want you to address this unstable slope, whatever the case may be, if there's some type of concern with the site. they will send this report out. If you have put in comments, then you are going to be recorded as a party of record. So you will get a copy of this on your email if you've given your email, or mailed to if you preferred to get it that way. But you'll only get a copy of this if you submitted a public comment or asked to be a party of record. You're not going to get it automatically because you live in the neighborhood, and your neighborhood association leader is not going to automatically get this if nobody's commented on it. It'll just go completely through the process of just working with the applicant if the neighborhood hasn't inserted themselves into the process. Okay, Cheryl, you got your hand raised? When you go back. You're muted.
Not often, but yeah. Back on the pre-app, you can be a party of record without a comment. If the
Yes.
neighborhood leader goes to the meeting, then they are a party of record and you will get all the information without, anything else too.
Yes, you can do it only if you submitted public comment or asked to be a party of record, either one.
I haven't asked for it, but I get all the notifications when I show up after the pre-app.
Do you sign in, or do you tell them?
Yeah,
you are?
Well, first off, you have to contact the planner or the staff person for the link to the pre-app.
Okay, at that point, you're giving that information, so then they can put that into.
And then once you appear, then you are a party. Once you attend, then you are a party of record. If
Okay.
you don't attend, I'm not sure if you are, but I've always attended. So, and I've never had to go on a list or anything for that. I just thought I'd throw that in.
Okay. Oops, I don't want to open that file. Okay, so now they've given their report on the pre-application, so that's trying to work out the bugs. Then the applicant goes back to the plan and makes adjustments according to what they talked to the planner on and what's in the final report from the pre-application. So they submit another proposal, and it goes in for a type type 1 or 2 process. The county planner reviews the public comment that was submitted during the pre-application process, and then they also go through the county code requirements, and then they write the staff report and the decision on the submittal, and it's done. So they can be denied, and they can be approved, or they can be also approved with conditions. And they are approved with conditions a lot of times when the neighborhoods have come in and asked and had concerns, then they'll have those conditions written in that needs to be done for it to go forward. For the type 3 process, the county planner just writes a report and recommendations, and then they schedule for hearing examiner review for the final decision. And the notice of hearing is sent out to the people that are parties of record, and then it also gets mailed to the neighborhood association leader and all of the people that are within a 300 or a 500-foot radius, depending on whether they're urban or rural. After the decision is made, then the public comment part of the process ends. But on these type 3 ones, there's going to be a land use hearing. So you'll get the notice, they'll send it out within 14 days of everything being submitted, and at least 15 days prior to the hearing date. So that only gives you 2 weeks to get your comments in or get ready to testify. There should also be, besides the mailings that you're going to receive, the applicant is responsible for posting a signboard on the property. And I have heard comments from the neighbors that they've given some comments to community development that they want the signboards bigger, that they're hard to see in the more rural areas. And I know that they're reviewing that at this point in time. I don't know if it's going to change, but I know they have heard your comments. The report and recommendation that the staff does goes out in between this time, and it's part of the record to the hearing examiner. So the hearing examiner then, during the hearing, is going to see the staff report first, and then all of the supporting documentation that is behind it, and all of your public comment. And so they'll have a rather large file if there's been a lot of public comment with all of the supporting documentation. And if you're getting a land use hearing notice, this is what it will look like on email. It'll be titled Land Use Hearing Agenda 4 and the date, and the hearing notice will be an attachment. I'm pointing at the 2 red boxes. I don't know if you can see my mouse wandering around, but there's 2 red boxes down below here, and that's how my email screen with Outlook appears. The address it comes from is from ComDev OA Land Use. So if you have a really strong spam filter, you want to take this email address and allow to receive it, or else it's going to pop into your spam. And that's what it's going to look like. It's going to show you the name of the project, the case number, the location, and it's usually rather lengthy because it's going to show the site plan and all the other stuff that is associated with the hearing for you to comment. And I believe that it's the same as a pre-app that Cheryl was mentioning, that you need to contact the planner to let them know that you're testifying so that they know how long the hearing's going to be. Then at the hearing, what happens during that process is the hearing examiner opens the hearing. They review the state and county codes. They review the plan and the evidence that's submitted by the applicant. Usually the applicant will give a presentation on what they're doing and why it should be approved. They review the staff report, and they review the written testimony that's submitted prior to the hearing. And then there's also then an opportunity for verbal testimony for the applicant and the public and the staff. A lot of times there will be questions asked of the staff or the applicant during that time, and there'll be a little bit of back and forth depending on how complex the project is. So some things on if you're going to submit written testimony. Again, include the case number and the name of the project at the top of the letter. And if you're submitting it via email, put it in the subject line too, and include the hearing date. Sometimes they get so many emails on this, it's really good to have that hearing date on it, because they can go ahead and sort that out really quick and make sure they know what they have to get into the files right away. The earlier the better when you're submitting written testimony. It gives them time to read it. If you don't submit it until the hearing date and you hand it to the hearing examiner, they usually don't make the decision on the spot. They leave the record open for at least 7 days. But the longer that they have it, the more time they have to actually review and look at everything that you're submitting. Include, if you've looked up the county code and it's saying something specific and you're wanting to bring that to their attention, then I would cite it in here and say code section 40.xyz. And I would also type it out so that they don't even have to look it up if you have time to do that. But definitely at least cite the code and make sure it's listed in there. And include any photos or maps. If you've gone out and taken photos of the intersection, I know with Livingston Mountain, there were lots of photos of intersections and problems with congestion or problems with conflicts with school bus stops, actually showing where the school bus stop was, taking a picture of it. A picture truly is worth 1,000 words, and it really does help the hearing examiner see what's going on at that site. And the other thing that they always state, petitions will show you, it'll show the hearing examiner that there's a lot of people concerned about something, but they can't really use that as a determination. Petitions are more swaying if it's actually going to be a political type of situation where it's going to the county council. If it's going to where it's a master plan for Camp Bonneville, a change of zoning for the annual reviews type of process where the county council is actually going to be the ones making the decision, they still do have to go by the code, but I think it's important for them to know how many people are concerned. They are a lot of work to do petitions. I know there's some of you on this call that have done petitions, and it is weeks long of effort. And just be cognizant that it may or may not make a difference when you do that. And yes, I can send out copies of the presentation.
Thank you.
So tips for testifying in person. On verbal testimony, short and sweet advice is be confident, but be respectful, and be brief, and include your detailed information on written paperwork instead of speaking it all out. Normally there's a 3-minute limit on what you can say. And so I personally suggest practicing ahead of time. Number one, it will help you get it more clear of what you want to say. Secondarily, it'll help you feel more confident when you're standing in front of them. And then thirdly, you can set the timer and know it's really hard to tell what 3 minutes is. Sometimes you'll have written out a whole page and you're only going to use 1 minute of your time. And if you really want to use those whole 3 minutes, it's good to practice so that you know if you've got some extra time to talk. And if you are referencing code sections, I would not read out the code when you're in front of them. They're going to look that up anyway. So I'd reference what the code number section is, but I wouldn't use up your 3 minutes. You probably have more important things to do than just read the code of how you want to get the stuff out, how you want to get the information out. And then at the end of it, you can request that the hearing examiner leave the record open if a substantial amount of new information was submitted after the staff report was issued. And so I see 2 hands raised. First one is April's on here now. Thanks for joining us, April. April is our Community Development Director, and she is joining us. I don't know if there's going to be some questions at the end of what this process is, but we appreciate you joining us tonight, April. Since you've got your hand raised, if you want to unmute, then.
Awesome. I have been here the whole time, but I was on the phone. And so, yes, a drive took a little longer. So I started the presentation on the phone. I just wanted to clarify that they're not in person. Land use hearings are all virtual.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So if you're dialing in still, you're still going to want to, there's still going to be a time limit and you're still going to want to practice.
Yes. Yes. You just won't physically be in front of someone. Exactly. But it's a little less nerve-wracking. So.
Okay, that is really good to know. Also, because I put on here to bring at least 2 copies of your written testimony to submit for the record, but you're not going to be doing that if you're virtual. You're going to want to make sure you send that in via mail way ahead of time or via email. I see Stephen, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, 2 other things about giving testimony. One is if you're really on that tight time limit, which you are because they have a timer, it's very good to have a script written out ahead of time, because that will also give you more confidence in what you're saying. And as a guide for that, a good cadence when you're giving an oral presentation is to limit your script to 120 words per minute that you have. So for 3 minutes, nominally 360 words, but if you can keep it to 300, even better. That's it.
Good advice. Oh, Cheryl's got her hand raised.
Oh, I was just going to say best practice, submit your written and you can do verbal. even though you've submitted it. And that, because you can get more feeling into the words. So I would recommend both.
Good comments. So the hearing's over, and then what's the hearing examiner going to do? What can they decide? Well, they can approve it if it meets the code requirements, or they can approve it subject to conditions of approval, which means they're going to add some things that they're going to have to do before it's approved, or they can completely deny it, which that doesn't happen very often, I don't think, does it, April?
No, not very often, because if at the county, if we say, there've been times where we say we'll go to the hearings examiner, but we're not recommending approval. So most of the time the developer will try to get there, because most developers do not want to go in front of a hearing examiner with a recommendation of denial. It happens, but generally, I mean, we normally have a really good reason why we're going to be denying it, and so it's not a good idea.
Okay, yeah, and that's usually a lot of times where the subject to conditions of approval come in, where there's a rub of some things that they want to make an argument that, yes, this does meet code. We want to do it this way. Please approve how we want to do it. And so that winds up being a longer discussion and a longer write-up by the hearings examiner. Because the applicant has the burden of proof as to whether it's going to meet the code requirements or not. The planner can look at it and say, nope, this doesn't meet this doesn't meet this, we're denying it. And the applicant is the one that has the burden to say, yes, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and so yes, it does meet it. And then they decide at the end by the hearing examiner, he or she is the one that has the final say on that. The record is usually left open for at least a week after the hearing. If there's a lot of public comment, sometimes it will be longer. And then the hearing examiner issues a written decision 14 days after the week of open record. So April, looks like, did I get something wrong here?
No, not wrong. I just wanted to add that a hearings examiner is generally a land use attorney. And I think our two, I don't think either one of them live in Clark County. Which I feel is helpful because they can be a neutral third party.
Excellent. And then at the end, so if you've been a neighbor and so you followed this all the way through, and this is not 3 months or 6 months, we're talking a year and a half, at least 9 months from the start to this part of it. For all of the different review process that this is going through. And you followed all this and you're like, I don't agree with it. I think it should have been denied. You would have to file for reconsideration or appeal. And what that looks like, I just have one slide on because we're not going to go into detail on that piece of it, because that's like a whole meeting. I think that Brian had like 5 slides on it. There's a lot that goes into doing that process. So for a type 3, this is like all the stuff that you're going to get. So I did a timeline of one particular project and then followed it all the way through. So a pre-application final report on this project was issued in September of 2022. But the notice of hearing for the actual hearing to go in front of the hearing examiner was not sent out until September 27th, and the hearing wasn't until August 24th of the following year. So almost an entire year before it got to the hearing date. The final staff report is issued in between the time that the hearing notice of hearing is and then the recommendation. So that's going into the record for the hearing. And then the hearing agenda notice is sent out on August 9th for the August 24th hearing. After the hearing is reached, then this is what it looks like of what you get. It is a legal document when it comes from the hearing examiner. It's not going to look like, I'm going to go backwards for a second. This staff report, the third document on here, is a staff report with a staff report decision recommendation. So it looks more like a memo. But when you get the hearings examiner's decision, that is a legal document decision. And so it's a little bit more onerous to read through because it's all in legal language. But it's very detailed, and it will tell point by point, yes, you met this requirement. Yes, you met this requirement. And then it'll be, no, you did not meet this requirement. So we're going to make a condition that you do X, Y, and Z. And it can be kind of lengthy to read through it. But if you've been watching all the different things and submitted concerns, you're going to want to go through that and look and see if your concerns were addressed. Cheryl.
From a neighborhood leader standpoint, with the time frame being so long sometimes between this to the next hearing, if there's a change in leadership, is probably something that neighborhood leaders would need to think about on how they're going to transfer this over, this information.
That's
you
a
know what
good
I'm saying?
point.
Because it's like, we don't all, generally we keep the same email address. So if you're emailing it, they would get it, but sometimes those emails get changed, or I just lost my train of thought.
I see what you're saying. That is very important. And I'm getting a question about, are there time limits following approval if they don't move ahead on a project for a certain amount of time? And I believe that there are. That's a question that I may have to get back to you on, Bridget. I don't think they can get it approved and wait 10 years and then come back and build the same thing.
It's 7 years. Yeah.
7? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Is it 7, April? It's 7. Yeah. But the thing is if a neighborhood association, let's say, goes dormant and then comes back the following year, you know, there's some issues here on continuity.
Yes, because I don't keep the records for the neighborhood association. So this might be something to discuss on the different neighborhood leadership. I know there's a couple of neighborhood associations that just assign a person that watches all of this, the stuff that's the development in their neighborhood. And in that case, then they would have a file and they could pass it on to the next person. But that is something to be considered, as you said, because 7 years is a long time in neighborhood association land. And so after that decision is made, it's done. Okay, this is how we're going to do it, and this project is approved. There is a lot more stuff they're going to have to go through. Then they go to another phase of review, and it goes to another division that's in community development that is called development engineering. And there are 2 sections to development engineering. There's an engineering review of the actual plans, and those go back and forth until the plans meet code. And then when those plans are reviewed, until those plans are approved, they can't move any dirt. And so when the dirt starts moving, then the engineering plans have been approved for the site, and the engineering inspectors then go into play, and they inspect on site during that work. They're watching for erosion control, dirt being moved into the ground, onto the road. I've gotten calls frequently about when there's a project, if they're coming on and off the site and they aren't keeping the road clean. Those calls would go to development engineering inspection for them to follow up on that. And I'm making up a cheat sheet of telephone numbers in these departments for you guys so that you can get to the right folks when you have specific complaints. And all of this is the sewer lines, the lines for where the gutters are going to drain, if they're going to do underground gutter drainage, if they're going to do the sidewalks, all of the infrastructure that's going to happen for this project. So there's no structures going up, there's no building. And then there's a point where, okay, that part is done, the prep work is done, and then it goes to the next phase, and it goes to another division in community development of building safety. And the plans examiners will review each one of the structure plans for code of compliance. And then as they're being built, the developer will apply for several different types of permits for plumbing, electrical, mechanical, all those things that are built. Each one of those things is inspected and signed off on by an inspector for building safety, so that we know that the buildings are safe before they are signed off for someone to live inside of them or do business inside of them if it's a commercial structure. And they're not approved for occupancy until the county has done a final sign off on them. So this has happened. You have all of this stuff happening, and the appeals and the motions for consideration. I've included 2 slides for these that were from some information that Brian Mattson compiled. I basically have a link here to go to, and it has really detailed information on what you can do and what you can't do. One piece I did decide to include on this slide is who can appeal. Type 1, anybody can appeal. Type 2, you have to have submitted written comments or you can't appeal it. And type 3, only the applicant or the parties of record can appeal. And there's another thing that can happen, though. There can be a motion of reconsideration, and that can only happen if you've gone through the whole hearing process, you've submitted a whole bunch of different information that you don't feel was included in the planner's initial report, and there has to be something that was an irregularity, an error, some newly discovered evidence, something that wasn't put in there, or that it's contrary to law. So that is different than an appeal because something was wrong or something wasn't included. And so I've got a bunch of references on here. Oops, we've got Kirk in here. I can't hear you, Kirk. You're muted.
Yeah,
There we go.
sorry. Finish what you're doing and then I'll ask my question.
Okay. So first, I have a couple of polls that I want to do just for, it's kind of more for county information and my information. Can you see the poll that's on here or not?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm wanting to know if you are already getting the Community Development Weekly Project email list, can you click on yes? And if you're not already getting it, can you click on no? So that I can see if there's anybody on here who is not getting it and who is getting it. Just because it's kind of interesting to know if this is completely new information to you. Because we're wanting to make sure that you have the tools so that you can be informed about what's going on. And that's 9 out of 14. I'll wait one more second to see if somebody's looking for the button, and then I'll go ahead and close that one. So it looks like 6 people are, 4 people are not out of 10 people that answered. Back, and then
Mine has just disappeared. I used to get it, but I don't now.
okay, we need to get you back on the list then.
Thank you.
So the next question is, I'm curious if any of you have, okay, I said launched, can you see it? Have you ever testified at a land use hearing? Did this
It's a different question.
I don't see it.
It's not up yet.
Okay, it doesn't want to launch. Nope, my other ones aren't gonna launch. What's it doing?
Bummer, because that's
It's
pretty
giving
cool.
me- Yeah, that's interesting information. So a poll has been launched in this meeting. So
Why
back.
don't we just do a show of hands?
Oh, it's because I ended it. That's why. And it's share results, stop sharing, share results, stop sharing. Relaunch poll. Oh, it's going to clear the results. Okay. Yeah, let's just go ahead and do a show of hands then of if you've testified at a land use hearing. Okay, so several of you have. And then the next question is, have you ever used the county's property information center to look up information on properties? Oh, lots of you. Excellent.
Are we voting by hand or by,
If you can use the raise hand that's there at the
Okay.
bottom under,
okay? Oh,
and I can see it better
raise hand, yeah.
because it'll tell me up at the top of how many people have raised their hand. So, okay, that's great. So I think a couple of you had your hands raised for questions. So let's ask a couple questions and then I'm gonna go into the GIS page so that you can see what's on there because I think it's a really important tool to know how to navigate.
So my question, Marilee, is because as I'm looking at my project report, is some of these have been on here forever. So I'm looking at Kennedy Short Plat. The comment period ended back in 2020. It's been on here for, ever since. I got the Russo driveway that's been about as long, and it says in review. So I'm kind of wondering what on hold means and how long something can be on hold, and obviously in review. A driveway would seem like that, shouldn't be in review for 2 years or whatever. So I'm curious about those.
Okay, I am going to ask that question and then I will send an email back to everybody that attended on what the answer is.
I might be able to answer both those questions.
Oh, cool. That'd be awesome.
So I think that on hold, and you might want to check me on this one, Marilee, but I think it's 3 years. It can be on hold. Normally it's on hold because the county is requiring something and they're trying to figure out whether they want to do it or not, or whether it's worth it to do it. So we allow them to go 3 years.
Okay.
And then the driveway, the only thing I can think of why a driveway would be on hold that long is you might have an application for a driveway, but it might not meet driveway spacing or something else. And so we've told you can't do that. And so now you're trying to find a way around it. Or
So
something.
it says it's in review. Well, wouldn't that not mean that it's the county is still reviewing?
Right, but I could
Yeah.
say our review time, so I could say, I'm sorry, you're not meeting driveway
Ah,
spacing. And then
okay.
you're going to say, oh, okay, I'll get back to you with an alternative. And that would still say in review until it's been too long and we put it on hold.
And 3 years seems to be the case there. Okay, thank you.
Well, but what if it was 3 years is the case for on hold? My thing
Oh.
with this one is maybe it was on hold for 3 weeks or 3 years and it just came off hold.
Oh.
We don't know when it started
Yeah,
back up again.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Bridget, you have your hand up?
Oh, I was still voting. Yeah, so if something's gone through review and then there is an environmental services complaint, does that call the review into question? Or is that a totally different process? And I'm thinking on Highway 99, there's a site that seems to have dug a roadway down to the creek there, which clearly is not good.
The one across from Chuck's?
No, the one across from Chuck's has been in abeyance for, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years. That was why I asked about how long it ago. This one's further up across from Yard and Garden Land. It's a very weird shaped lot, and the guy's has almost no land, but he seems to have made a driveway down to the creek, and I'm worried that the pollution in the creek is Tenny Creek, I guess it would be. Very odd. But I think there was an environmental services complaint. I just don't know what that consequence could be to what he's doing there.
We try
I
to make them
would
repair
call
it.
the planner.
Well, and if it's something that's already approved, like he already has, it's a code enforcement case, and we make him repair it as best as he can. A lot of people do things without getting permits,
Yeah.
and then we make them put it back as best we can to the way it was.
So it becomes a code enforcement issue.
And
Yeah.
then we charge,
Okay.
then we charge them double for the things they want to do. Yes, and there's
Oh,
fines.
We like that. The other lot across from Chuck's is just our new snow park and lake and bird sanctuary and everything else.
It's a duck pond.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you have to put a code enforcement case in because we're complaint generated.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Oh, and I've got some chats in here. Let's see. Okay. And yes, I will put you on the list too, Linda, but I'll need your email address.
Oh.
If you want to send me your email address, I'll make sure that you get on the list as well.
It's up above. It's up above
above.
where I asked for the copy of the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, there we go. Hang on one second. Let me write this down before I go on to the next thing so that I get this.
Can I clarify one thing with the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Electrical permits and inspections are through the state. The county doesn't do electrical.
Oh, I didn't know they didn't do the electrical.
We do
Okay.
the plumbing and mechanical.
But they do. I think the point I was trying to make on it, I'm sorry for the incorrect reference, but the point I was trying to make is that there's lots and lots and lots of inspections going on for each one of the structures that's being put up.
Correct.
To make sure that they are safe.
Yep.
And so just kind of on a little quick road trip of the Property Information Center, I'm going to click on my link, but I'm going to have to share the screen again because it doesn't look like it pops to where it's supposed to go. And oh, there we go. There's my little spinning blue wheel. And so I have to confirm I'm not a robot. Okay, so this is the magic portal to the Property Information Center for GIS, and our Clark County GIS is like one of the best in the state. It's amazing. There's actually even other states that look to us to see with the level of information that we can get on here. It's pretty amazing.
Oh,
I don't know what these recent searches of why I looked them up, but I'm just going to look up one of these that was a recent search. But you have a place that you can put in either a street address or you can put in a tax account number, either one. So, and this particular one, I have a recent search, so I'm gonna type in here, if I can type correctly.
Marilee, we can't
No.
see what you're doing. I don't know if you want us to
Oh.
following along.
Yes, I do. So here we go. Now we should have it right.
Okay,
Yep, that's good.
So here's what the screen is going to look like for the Property Information Center. And I have some recent searches in here of people have asked me questions about these property for one reason or another. And so if you're wanting to go back to something you looked at and it was your most recent thing, this is a hot link and you can just click on it and it's going to do the search for you. But if you're typing it in, I wanted to show you what it does. It's going to try to automatically fill anything that's going to match. Whoops, 666. And then you want to click on its description of what it has in there, and then click on search. If you haven't seen the screen before, this is like one of the best things ever. This is referring to a piece of property in Clark County. So say that you're trying to find out just you want to where a property line is, or just anything else about a neighboring property or your own property. This is going to tell you whether on this administrative data, this is a wealth of information for you. It's going to tell you whether you're Clark County or whether you're in one of the city limits of Washougal, Ridgefield, Vancouver. That's really important, because if it's not saying Clark County, then you're going to be wanting to calling the city that you're in. Or if you're driving by, for a lot of folks, when you're driving to your house, maybe you're driving by a piece of property and you want to know what's going on with it, and it says it's Vancouver, then your Clark County planning people are not going to be able to help you with information on it, because any of the permits are going to be through Vancouver. It's going to tell you what the zoning is. As you go down the list that's on the far left-hand side, what drainage district you're in, what neighborhood you're in. This particular property is not in a neighborhood. It has NA on here. Whether there's burning allowed, who your EMS response is, who your fire district is, who your police are to call, your school district, whether you're C-Trans served, if you have a traffic impact fee, if you have light fees, who your sewer district is. A lot of these, it'll tell you what your waste collection day is. This one, apparently it does not. And it also tells you where your water's coming from, whether it's Clark Public Utilities, Regional Wastewater District, or City of Vancouver. A lot of you in Cheryl's area or Northeast Hazeldale are on City of Vancouver water. And you probably already know that from your bill, but even if you know what you're doing with your property, if you're looking at another property possibly to buy, or your kids or your parents are looking to relocate here, this has a lot of information on it. If you're looking for who your representation is, the electoral data is at the top of the middle of the page, and it's going to tell you which one of your counselors to call. This property happens to be in District 5. It will tell you who your Public Utilities Commissioner district is, who your precinct district, your legislative district. If you're in the library district, which most people are, but there are a few that aren't outside of it. On your port district, who your port district representative is, who your school district board director district is, and weed control. It'll tell you, I've got people over the top of this on my screen. I'm going to move them. On the far right hand side, it tells the land value, your property value, and then further down, it has your market value for January 1st, 2021. And if you scroll down a little further to where this says general, and it tells you what your assessor value is. If you click on this notice of value, if you didn't receive it or you can't find it and you're wanting to know what they upped your value to last year and all of the details on it, you can click on this. And I guess I'm probably going to have to share the screen again. And this is something that we get a lot of questions on. Did it work?
Yes.
Excellent. So share. And this is the actual notice of value that you get. And one thing that that people don't look at a lot of times on their tax statement, oh, this isn't the right one that I'm thinking of, but on this particular one, it's showing what your value has gone, the old value, the new value. On this one, wow, I'm not exactly sure what's going on with this particular property, but there's some big numbers here.
Yeah.
So this is handy for you to have if you're trying to reference information. Did it go back to the Property Information Center on your
Yes.
screen?
Yes.
Okay. Up along the top, above where it says property owner, there's account, building, environmental, taxes, auditor docs, miscellaneous documents, permits, and sales search. The building tab, when you click on that, it's going to give you a picture of the building, and it's going to give you a listing of how many numbers of bedrooms, square footage, all of those different things. I'm going to skip over environmental, and I'm going to go to taxes because everybody's always interested in that, because that's just such a fun thing. One of the things that is very interesting on here on the taxes, and I don't know if I'm going to find the right piece here. Here we go. Almost in the center where it says tax and assessment distribution. It's going to let me go. This gives you the detail. I don't know if I can make this bigger or not. Yep, I can. Excellent. Can you see that little pop-up window that's in there?
Yes. Yes.
A lot of people question, you know, they're paying, this guy's, it's going to be like $4,700 a year. So if you're wanting to know what the distribution of those taxes are, this is going to tell you how much of this $4,000 is actually going to county general and county. So out of that $4,000, what actually goes to the county is around $500. There's things that go to mental health, veterans assistance, roads. You'll notice a lot of the biggest parts are going to the schools and your fire district. Those are a lot of the two of the biggest chunks. And so this is just something to be aware of. It's kind of nice to know where your money's all going to, what buckets it's heading to, and what your money's paying for. And then if you go over to where the permits are, this is where it ties into those notices that you were getting. And this is going to, these are not, this isn't a random piece of property, so there's not going to be a lot of stuff on here. But you can see that they've had a pre-application conference for this property. This number is PAC 2022, so it happened in 2022. There was a residential addition alteration. There was a mechanical permit, which most of the time is something having to do with heat pump type of thing. Another pre-application way down here in 2022. This might be more information than you're interested in, but it's handy to know also, instead of bugging your neighbor, if they've got a whole bunch of stuff going on over there, you can actually just type in their address and you can find out all the permits that are happening over there if you're wanting to know what's going on. Bridget?
No, I just wanted to say that my kids always want me to move to near where they live, like New Jersey or Michigan or North Carolina. I have to say this is the best property information center that I've seen. It's amazing. The detail is there. The only problem I've run into is sometimes the links from, like that top link, for instance, the backup data doesn't come up. It's maybe confidential or something like that. But truly, there's so much information here. I have to congratulate Clark County GIS systems because it's perfect.
They really do a fabulous job. And if you, like I said, if you're trying to help a friend or your kids or your parents to relocate here, and you're wanting to check with the information, double check the information that the realtor is giving you, up here at the very, very top where it has the property identification number that says maps online and fact sheet. If you click on the fact sheet, it'll give you a sheet that has pretty much, I didn't want to make that bigger. It's showing where the lot is. It has all this other information. So say you're going around and you're looking at 5 different houses or 10 different houses. You can go out here and print these out and take these with you when you're going around with a realtor. And
Yeah, it's amazing.
it will give you a lot of help in looking for looking up information that you want to know, especially if you're concerned about schools or whatnot.
If you click on the maps online as well.
That was the next thing I was going to do.
Okay, I'll shut up.
And this is going to make me accept their conditions. So this same property is on here. We can do, I want to bring somebody in from GIS and show you all the stuff that this can do, because I'm not as adept at some of the things that this can do. But one of the things I really like to do if I'm trying to figure out what's going on with a piece of property, somebody's calling me because there's a tree growing over the back fence, or they don't like something about an intersection or whatever. I can go to this layers tab that is at the far left-hand side. And when I click on layers, I can scroll down here and say, I want to click on the imagery and I want 2021 imagery. And now I can see what the layout of the land is on this property and what's next door to it and the trees and such. So this is really helpful for me when I have someone calling about a tree going over a fence or a tree that's blocking a sight line or some such thing like that. I can actually have a bird's eye view of what's going on. And it is really helpful. And if you were worried about this, say this tree that's up here towards the top of the blue square, that blue line is the property line. So it is hanging over the property line, if you were wondering if it's hanging over the property line. So Kirk, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I was just going to say on the environmental tab that you skipped over, there's the septic information on there that's really helpful. Their last inspection and any permit stuff that's there is really helpful too. So that's all.
Oh, yes. And Kirk's group just had the Poop Smart people come out, and you can get a free, if you are on septic, you can get a free inspection and have them give you money towards having things fixed on your septic. It's a very good program and I'd highly recommend it. It was a really good presentation at Kirk's meeting. So let's see if I can go back to moving people and look at the chat. And let's see, we are at 8 o'clock just about. If I go back to the property fact sheet, maps online. Okay, are you seeing the environmental screen in this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what Kirk was talking about, and this has information about, probably also tells you whether you have a well or not, or whether you're well or septic.
Yeah, exactly.
Well or hooked up with something. So yeah, all of this is all really good information, and GIS is also really good about helping you if you're trying to navigate through it. If you need, and if you need help on any of it, you can also call me, and if it's within my realm of knowledge, I will help you navigate it. So I'm going to go back to the account, and then I'm going to go back to just end presentation. I think there is something else on here. Yes, Bridget had asked about this. I also put a link in here for the residential zoning code. And I'll have to do the fancy share thing again once the blue. And so that link is going to take you to all of the information on the zoning codes for residential. If you can't go to sleep at night, this is a good thing to read. There's a lot of information in here, and some of it's technical, and never feel, never hesitate to call a planner if you're not understanding what part of this says, to get clarification on it, because it is pretty in-depth of what's in here. Lots of the zoning information, and they are working on, I believe this week or next week is the housing option study review, and one of the phases of the plan is going to go in front of the council. So some of these things will change if the code as proposed goes through. So that will be on the hot link in the presentation, and I will go back to here. And then my office is the 564-397-2316. It's forwarded to my phone when I'm working at home. It's so my cell phone rings if you call that number when I'm at home, so you can always still get a hold of me through that number. And the community development frontline office is the 2375 number, and that'll get you to a very friendly receptionist who can get you to the correct person within the hierarchy of development engineering, development inspection, building safety, or your friendly planner. And so now what I will do is just open up if anybody needs to go back to anything that's already been presented or has questions on anything that was presented, any comments on what was presented, things that you want to know more about that I can bring more information back to you on. And April?
I just want to reiterate how important written testimony is when you are testifying at a land use hearing. Even one of our public hearing with our counselors. For us, especially big cases, the hearings examiner will hear anywhere from 10 to 50 public testimonies, and that's but he has a week he leaves the record open for a week, and he gets to review those all and has to review those all. So you might bleed into the crowd when there's 50 of you, but when you have written testimony, he has the time to digest it. And what if you get nervous and you forgot to say something? So I cannot reiterate more how important written testimony is. And then the time frames are so long, just so you know, the time frames from pre-apps to the hearings are so long. 90% of that time, that is with the applicant trying to fix the things that the county has asked him to, or his or her.
Bridget?
First of all, it's an amazing presentation. I want to thank you because now we've got it on YouTube. We can share it when we need to, and that's great. Now I've forgotten what I really wanted to say. Gee, what was it? No, I've forgotten. So thank you, Marilee. That was really good.
You're welcome. And you should thank April and her staff as well. I was asking questions from Melissa and Brian and several other people, and everybody has been very helpful in having me pester them. Linda?
Yeah, I was wondering, as I said at the beginning, I'm totally new to this because we just started the neighborhood association, or we just divided it from Sunnyside. Is it possible to get a list of everyone, of all the different neighborhood associations and the chairs and co-chairs and their contact information?
Yes.
Is that somewhere?
I'll include that in the packet of lots of stuff I'm sending you.
Thank you. I'm just thinking that, like the Curtin Creek Neighborhood Association should be working with the neighborhood associations that surround it on areas of common interest. So
yes,
that would make it easier.
Yeah, that's really a good idea. And that's partially what the Neighborhood Associations Council is for, so that you guys all the leaders can get together once a month and share information with each other. What's working, what's not working, what was easy last month, what's hard. And then if it's something that is a topic that's of high interest that we can dive into some maybe solutions on it, then we can work on getting more presentations to you and more information towards you of solving those issues. Bridget?
Yeah, I remembered. I hear a lot of talk about council extending the distance limits for notifications on proposals, like it's currently 300 and 500. In our neighborhood, 300 wasn't sufficient to have us comment on the property across from Chuck's that came up and surprised a lot of people. And I do hear they're going to do something about it, but I wondered if that was just a rumor.
No, we are. It is going in our next biannual. So biannual code updates take about
I'm bored, so I'm reading.
biannual code updates take about 6 months to get through. We have to go to a work session with council, then we have to go to a work session with planning commission, then we have to go to council, then we have to go
Back
to.
at you.
So, yes, it'll
Okay.
happen,
At you.
but it'll probably be January of 2020.
Period.
Thank you.
Busy munching as I'm bored.
We can hear
We can
you.
hear you, Cheryl.
Oh, sorry.
Bridget?
No, I finished.
Okay. All right, then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to close out this recording so that you can go into roundtable. So as far as this presentation is going, I'll close it out by saying that, this was August 14th with the Neighborhood Associations Council of Clark County. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to present information. Thanks to April and her team for my myriad of questions and answering them. And I took a lot of things from a previous presentation and then tailored them to the questions that I hear from the neighborhood. So I think it wound up being a successful collaboration, and I really appreciate the time of staff to assist me in this because I did not do this on my own. So thanks for everybody being involved, and I will close out the recording. Maybe.